toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the messenger, the spirit of guidance. Tonight, our theme is finding light in times of darkness. So let me start with a few passages from Hazrat Inayat Khan. The principal teaching of Sufism is that the heart of the human is the shrine of God, and one can recognize God in one's heart, feel its existence, presence, virtue, goodness, and all manner of beauty. It must remember that the whole of life around us is a life of falsehood. The more you see and experience, the more you see how very false it is and how much disillusionment there is. The only way of getting over it is to light the lamp in the darkness of night, and all will be cleared. The secret of life, then, is to produce beauty in ourselves. When beauty is produced in the heart, then all that breaks the heart vanishes, and the whole universe becomes one single vision of the sublimity of God. And to comment on this passage, when he talks about the life around us being a falsehood, I don't believe he means that the true life that we actually live in, the true world that we actually exist in, is a falsehood. I think he means that our perception of what we think is ourselves and what we think is all that there is to the world around us, that's the falsehood. You could say it's a limited perspective, a limited vantage point. So we've all had times, and these recent months have certainly been more challenging than most, when it's easy to feel that things are bleak and dark and to become pessimistic and to have feelings of despair. So if spirituality is something that is really to be of use in the real world, in our day-to-day life, then there should be a way that it can help us open up to light when we feel like the light has either become very dim or sometimes feel like it's vanished altogether. So how do we go about doing this? Well, it's much easier to focus on the inner life, the turning within, closing the eyes, sitting and meditating, and doing practices, which is very important and very necessary in our journey towards awakening. But it's also easy to allow there to be a sense of disconnection between that inner experience and the outer world, and desire to just want to retreat from the external life and go more and more into the inner realms where things are very light and beautiful. But we want to avoid what Pir Vilayat called the spiritual bypass, just skipping over areas that really need some attention, because we want our spirituality to help us become complete, authentic human beings, firmly grounded in the world and able to deal with whatever difficulties may come our way. So what are some practical ways to feel this opening of the light in the midst of seeming darkness? One important step is just a remembrance of who we are. And we can even come at it from science. Einstein, E equals mc squared, that energy and matter are interchangeable with each other. One form can be converted into another. And in a sense, we are crystallized light. Our being, the very stuff of our being, is light having become matter, so that we can have an existence in manifestation. So close your eyes for a moment and just allow yourself to remember not something from the past, not something that you used to be before you incarnated in this life, but what you are and always will be. You are a being of light. Light is the essence of your being. And our whole experience, our whole relationship with existence is a relationship that takes place through light, through an interchange of light. So from our perspective, we could say that we experience or partake of manifestation through communing with it. So we experience a communion of light as we remember and as we open not only to the essential nature of who we are, but also what everything else is. Everything else is an expression of light in different forms. In the Zohar, the mystical writings of Judaism, it says that in the beginning there was just an infinite ocean of light, and the divine hollowed out a central vacuum in this ocean of light through which penetrated a shaft of light that became the light of creation of every realm of existence, all the way down to the manifest world, to the earth. So the divine took of its own being, this infinite, indescribable being, and took light to form the substance of existence in order that the divine could come to know and love and experience itself. So we're on the other end of that process, but we could not possibly ever be separated from it, because that's what forms the substance of our being. That's what we have been created from. And we could say in a deep sense that we are each a unique expression of light, which has developed the capacity to become aware of itself, and remarkably and perhaps paradoxically having the capacity to establish a relationship with the rest of the totality of which we're each deeply interconnected. So we're capable of having very wonderful and very deep experiences, not through necessarily through years and years of hard work and effort. Not that that's not important, but in just allowing ourselves to open into the true nature of who we are. So give yourself permission to release the firm grasp that we typically have on maintaining an illusion of separateness and disconnection, and open to, first of all, the vastness of your being, vaster than the universe. Interconnected with all of existence through all times and spaces, and beyond time and space. And allow yourself to open to the experience and the awareness that with every breath that you take, there's an incredible circulation of this light from everything to everything, from the transcendent to the manifest, from the manifest to the transcendent. Every part unique from every other part. And can you feel the quickening in your being as you open to all the forms and frequencies of vibration, of light, that are continually pouring into your being and emanating from your being. And simple awareness of this process enhances the light tremendously without effort. It's amazing. Just remembering and opening could bring about such a radical shift. And we can think of we had a little glitch there, so we can think of each of the divine qualities as being a form of this light, a unique vibration, although it's not exactly in the way that we usually think of vibration. But it's a modality of being able to both relate to whatever our focus is on, whether it's another person, whether it's something in nature, whether it's a being that is not in this physical world, a great master or saint or prophet, and also to our relationship with the divine, which Ibn Arabi describes as our personal Lord or our personal angel. We can think of the way that this deep communion takes place is through light, and it can be by means of any of the particular qualities that we're opening up to that modality of experiencing our interconnectedness. So it could be compassion, opening our heart. Pure Light would say, making room in our heart for all beings. Or it could be for a desire for healing. And we could think about the Archangel Raphael. And we could imagine that the way Raphael is expressed in a connection with manifestation is through the light of healing. So as we open to that, we can feel that healing energy. That healing energy that knows whatever it is that's needed. And similarly, we can open to that same modality of light and think of a being who needs healing, who has asked for us to pray for healing for them. And rather than feeling like we're sending something from our personal energy to that being, we're just allowing this openness, kind of being the matchmaker for there to be that connection, for that divine healing energy to be experienced by that person. It's kind of like, in a sense, being the antenna and manifestation that can enable that energy to be opened to, focused. And then we can think about those times when we get caught up in circumstances in our life and we feel very disconnected, the opposite of what we would consider feeling spiritual. But just like water in a stream can wear away rocks, just like plants, and I've used this story before, can sometimes break through concrete, seemingly impossible, and moving towards the light. That the nature of light in all of existence, particularly the light of our own being, of which we are manifestations of, that light will come through even the most difficult situation, even the ones that seem hopeless. So let me read you some more from Hazrat Inayat Khan. The spirit of guidance is as the yeast, which is used to make bread, to prepare humanity for the purpose for which it was created. The spirit of guidance is a plant that grows and blossoms when it receives response and care, and when it is watered by the rainfall of divine inspiration. It blooms in the light of the divine sun. The spirit of guidance is the light of God, which may be likened to a lantern that the farmer carries when walking on the farm in the darkness of night. The spirit of guidance is like a searchlight. Any object on which the searchlight is thrown, it shows clearly. So the spirit of guidance thrown upon any aspect of life gives one a keen insight into it. In the spirit of guidance, one finds a living God active in the heart of every person. The higher life is so much simpler than life on the surface of the earth, but the human does not know what he or she is. They do not know that they are a drop on the surface of the ocean, yet an ocean in their innermost part, that there is nothing that is not within them. A person who says to themselves, I do not possess this faculty, I cannot put up with this, I'm sorry, but I could not think of such a thing, and so forth. Well, all these ideas are their imagination, part of the confusion of their thought and lack of understanding of what they are. If a person understood what they are, they would never say, I cannot do this. Instead, they would become a real human, which is what a person ought to be. When God is with you, everything is with you. When God is in you, everything is in you. Inspiration, knowledge, light, all are then within you. But if you find joy in confusion, if you confuse yourself and keep yourself in darkness, you may do so. However, you inherited from the Heavenly Father His inspiration, His light, His power. You have inherited from the Almighty God. You have inherited light from the light of the universe. Therefore, you are blessed with all these things if you can only open your eyes and see the blessing. The Quran says God is the light of the heavens and of the earth. Then once the sight has become keen, there is no further instruction needed. One gets insight into the hidden laws of nature. All things seem to speak to the seer of their character, nature, and secret. This realization removes the boundary between life and death. One rises above the elements which have formed this mortal abode, the body and mind, for the soul's experience when one touches one's true being, the soul. And then one more. It is the soul-realized person who stands above all matter, and in this way the spirit gets victory over matter. Under all conditions of life which produce obscurity and confusion, the soul-realized person sees the light, and to him all persons of lesser or greater degrees of evolution are nothing but different forms of the divine eminence. In this way, the person who has probed the depths of the mystery of life becomes God-realized. When he or she no longer has their limited self before their view, then only they experience the state of which Christ has spoken. Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Sometimes we may hear lofty passages and thoughts like this and think, well, that really couldn't be me. There's been amazing beings that are like that, but that couldn't be me. But all the beings that have come, they're great messengers throughout time, have not been holding themselves up as a rare phenomena that nothing else could be like, but they've all been exemplars of the possibilities of what our potentialities are. And as the Bhagavad Gita says, better one's own dharma, which means spiritual duty or purpose, however imperfectly formed, than to perform the dharma of another, no matter how perfectly done. And so the goal is not to become the same as even the most wonderful of beings who have ever been, but the goal is to become more and more the fullest possible expression of who we are, of what we have made of the treasuries in each of our divine inheritances, no two of which ever could be the same. And that yet there's an ongoing blossoming that can take place in each one of us. Not only a finding of the light in times of darkness, but becoming sources of a special form of that light that is longed for, that is the answer to the prayer of the divine being who created you. So as we become more and more complete expressions of the fullness of who we are the response to the longing of the divine being that birthed our souls. Think about that. So when each of our souls, as Mercia talks about, is a ray of that divine central sun, we can think of when each of our souls was created, it was the start of a prayer of the divine being, and the divine being could not possibly know what the outcome was going to be, but there was a longing to discover an aspect of the divine's being that could only come through each one of us. So creation occurred in this infinite ocean of light, and then there was this hollowed out vacuum through which the shaft of light descended, and it was a launching forth of this divine desire. Each of our souls a part of that desire, yearning for fulfillment. And as much as we each yearn for fulfillment in establishing more and more deeply our connection with the divine has the same desire and longing, only vastly more to discover what comes through experiencing us. So we're seeking more and more light in this world of manifestation, and the divine is seeking more and more a fulfillment of that light. It's never completed, never ends. So think about those circumstances that help to bring light to you. And it could be people that you have a deep connection with, that when you interact with them, it seems like the light just keeps on increasing. It could also be places in nature that you feel such deep beauty and openness and connection. It could be inner experiences in your meditation. It could be experiences that perhaps have come to you over the years, seemingly just totally out of the blue, that you weren't really trying to do anything. They just emerged spontaneously. You had a peak or a hall experience. And these were all just temporary glimpses of the light that's always there. And we can open to a way of being in the world that we can partake of that light more and more. So in just a moment, I'm going to put some music on and just ask you to hang out in that light and open more and more to it. And for those of you who may be watching this video on YouTube and not participating live, for copyright reasons, I'm not going to record the music. I'm just going to pause the recording. But if you want to experience the same thing we are, you can put Incredible String Band, and there's a song called Rainbow, and I'm going to be playing a part of that song. And we'll close with a prayer from Hazrat Inayat Khan called Nabi. A torch in the darkness, a staff during my weakness, a rock in the weariness of life. Thou, my master, maketh earth a paradise. Thy thought giveth me unearthly joy. Thy light illuminateth my life's path. Thy words inspire me with divine wisdom. I follow in thy footsteps, which lead me to the eternal goal. Comforter of the brokenhearted, support of those in need, friend of the lovers of truth, blessed Master, thou art the prophet of God. Amen.